YouTube, welcome back. So again, this is Dream Catalyst, self-published this. Go to Amazon.com, the US version, if you want to purchase. So I'll also attach the link below to purchase. But yeah, it would help me out if you purchase this. I know I'm offering the audiobook for free on YouTube, but this is how I make money. So if you like what you're seeing, go to the link below, Amazon.com. They ship globally, but you do have to go to the American site. So if you've been keeping up, last week we read Chapter 3, Tornado. So if you missed that, just go back, click off this video and go back to my last video that I posted. But if you're all up to date, now we're going to do Chapter 4, Sky Fort. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, Chapter 4, Sky Fort. By the way, Sky Fort's the same as treehouse. I didn't know that when I was writing this. It's a synonym. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the story. Chapter 4, Sky Fort. Quote, "We throw our coins into the well to put value in our wishes." Signed by B. Pedaling looks harder than it is, I thought to myself as I trudged my way up yet another steep hill. I noticed that whenever a person on a bike passed by, they always looked as though they were gliding across the asphalt, as if they were ducks gliding on water. I, on the other hand, did not look as graceful as I tramped up the slopes with difficulty. By this time I had pedaled a great deal from the yellow house in the cul-de-sac of the conservative city. I pedaled through the night and into the morning, and further into the next day's afternoon. I would occasionally break at convenience stores and gas stations to refill my water bottle and use the restroom. I also took the opportunity to consume a cup of coffee. I did not like coffee. It was too bitter. I liked things sweetened. But I knew that if I wanted to last the duration of the journey, I would need to caffeinate myself as frequently as was feasible. I drank my coffee with honey and cinnamon. Most convenience stores had neither, so instead, I filled my cup with creamers. One location mocked me for filling my light roast coffee with 5 creamers and 2 sugar packets. I disregarded the passive aggression. Those who dwelled on mundanity were not my concern. I did not have a plan for this voyage, but I intended to travel as far as one possibly could on bike before I settled. I had gone a night without sleep, and it was around dinner time. No matter how tired I grew from the journey, I refused to hitchhike. I had seen enough documentaries to know it was unsafe. A white van pulled up beside me at the street light. The driver, a white elderly man with peppered hair, asked if I needed a ride. It sent a bitter chill down my spine. I denied him. Other strangers at the convenience stores would approach me. Also, they would solicit the time of the hour from me. While I did wear my silver watch, and while I could have given them the time, I always denied them. I hid my watch up the sleeve of my red jacket. I did not want anyone to know I was carrying something of value. The backpack looked tattered, and I knew it would not attract the attention of a burglar. My only genuine concern was losing my bike. Reala's bike was stolen several times after he would park it back in the conservative city. Whenever I would temporarily neglect my bike so I could purchase coffee, I would lean it against the glass window of the store. In doing so, I could watch it from within the building. Apparently, bikes were in high demand. Twice I noticed a person attempt to steal it. I would neglect whatever activity I was completing to stand beside the bike and make eye contact with the suspect until they submitted themselves to my gaze. I decided it was time to take refuge. I had grown rather tired at this point. My eyes settled upon a small town. I had been here once before. I traveled here once many years ago for apple fritters with a playmate while I was in elementary school. I remembered it only because of the giant apple sign that welcomed newcomers into the town. Here, the apple sign that welcomed everyone into the town. Here, sidewalks were cobbled, and the buildings were rustic. This was a town that belonged to the Mennonites. Though some regions of the downtown were commercialized, the majority of the town was still mostly modest. Here, horse trolleys trotted the streets instead of motor vehicles. The horses dashed through the cobbled streets while pedestrians traveled on the roads. The narrow streets were littered with antique shops, novelty stores, and old-fashioned dress boutiques. I noticed a couple walking, hand in hand together on the sidewalk. A girl wore a smile and a white bonnet. Her hair was pulled back into a bun. She also wore a modest dress with an apron situated in the front. The boy wore black pants and a collared mustard shirt. I supposed they were walking home from school because he was carrying her books. I passed an array of shops as I rode through the town. The first appeared to be a bookshop, where beaten books of various literary periods lined the shelves. There were also ice cream parlors and broom shops. Here, they crafted brooms by hand. They also sold magic wands for children and child adults who never lost their fairy. I walked past a toy shop with a train that circulated the top of the store. It would travel to the front of the shop and into the alcove of the wall. I glimpsed back quickly through the window as I rode past the tiny toy shop. I could tell it was a shop of merriment for the tiny ballerinas that danced in jewelry boxes and the bouncy balls that leaped across the floors of the shop. What truly caught my attention, though, was a tiny shop in the narrow street that leaked sparkles from its entrance. The sparkles caused the sidewalk to shimmer. It sparkled silver and gold. Intrigued by the tiny shop, I decided to venture inside. I parked my bike alongside a dog tied to a post outside of the shop. I did not have a chain for my bike, but I assumed the dog would bark if a person tried to approach it. With the dog standing guard, I trusted my belongings to be safe. I decided to examine the glittering foil pieces that littered the shop entrance. The tiny sparkles were confetti pieces shaped like tiny winged fairies. Each fairy stood in profile. Some wore colored copper, some gold, and lastly others silver. Each held a miniature wand. They outstretched their hands to play it. I entered past the welcome mat littered by those glittering foil fairies and into the shop. I was astonished to find the entire shop was covered by fairy statues and paintings. There were posters of fairies that lined the walls. The tiny statues of winged women were posed on the shop's shelves. Butterflies also lined the walls. Some of the fairies rode the butterflies in the paintings. Other paintings illustrated fairies with their butterfly leash, as if they were their pet dogs. They flew alongside them in a forest of flowers. There were tiny ornaments shaped like fairies, too. They hung on the banister. The small, sparkling fairy confetti pieces lined the floors inside the shop as well. They glistened on the ground, resembling fairy dust. I ventured into the back room of the shop. There were shelves lined with fairy tale picture booklets. One of them of the featured stories was Peter Pan, and it seemed fitting. I also saw other fairy tale books on the shelves, The Toad Prince, Thumbelina, and The Toy Soldier. It was worth noting that not all of the farriers were jocular and whimsical in demeanor. In the back of the shop, I noticed a set of moody fairy statues. Most of them wore dark blues and purples. Many of them looked solemn. Some others looked fierce. These fairies differed from the other fairies displayed in the front of the shop. These fairies had an intensity to their look. I was drawn to them over the jocular fairies. Something in their melancholy brought me joy. I looked sadistically at their drooping wings. Why are they frowning? I thought to myself. So beautiful, yet so sad. They must be artists. Who else would bring beauty to an onlooker at the cost of their own self-destruction? A neighboring table also displayed fairy statues. These fairies represented the elements. Fire was dressed in a mahogany gown. The ends of the fabric dripped by red and orange tints, and her hair stood on its ends like the flame of a candle. The second was a water fairy. The fairy stood in a turquoise dress, which made her seem lucid and light. She looked like the type of fairy to indulge in wake dreams. The tiny fairy to her right wore green. I supposed she was Earth. To me, she looked complacent, and so I hated her. The final was Wind. Her dress was flowing, and she had her back turned to me. Her wingspan matched the length of her outstretched arms, and her hair was pulled off to its side. Perhaps it was because her back was turned to me, but something about her made me want to follow her into an adventure. "You know," said a female voice from behind me, "if you buy it, you can stare at them all you like." I turned around to see a slim-faced blonde woman. She wore a modest dress and a tiny white bonnet. Her hair lay loosely in a side ponytail that draped over her left shoulder. Her belly protruded from her apron. Her stomach was round. She was stroking it dotingly. She was many months into pregnancy. "I wish I could," I smiled back at the woman, "but I'm just passing through. I don't have enough room in my backpack." "Passing through?" inquired the woman. "So I'm assuming that is your bike out front that the boy was attempting to steal?" "Yes, my bike. Oh my God." I peered out the window. Why didn't I hear the dog? The walls were thin enough. "Don't worry, I noticed it perked out front, and I know that mischievous boy well enough. Told him to scram, and I brought the bike inside. It's by the register." "Oh," I smiled, relieved. "Thank you. I was expecting to hear the dog." "You weren't the first to park the bike by the chattery dog," the woman laughed. "The boy is smart. He brings treats in his pocket to settle them. He isn't popular amongst the people here, but he is definitely appreciated by the local dogs." "You have an endearing little shop," I said. I examined the space once more. "It takes a special kind of person to own a little knick-knack shop like this." I looked at her face again and saw her youthful demeanor. She had rosy cheeks and a cheery smile. Something about her radiated a childlike innocence that not many others possess. I imagined her baby would be mothered well. It took a special kind of person to own a fairy shop. Even more so, it took a special kind of person to be a mother. Something about her made me believe that she never let her fairy die. "Well, backpacker, it looks like you are in luck. I need a hand with something, and it looks as though you need a place to stay for the night. Want to pay your wage for a cozy bed and breakfast tomorrow morning?" I was taken aback by this. Was it that obvious I was on the run? I sniffed my hair. Did she smell the sea salt too? I considered her offer. I had not covered much ground as I intended for the evening. I was troubled by the close distance between this city and the cul-de-sac with the yellow house. Although I had to admit, I was hungry and tired. The woman looked kind-hearted, and so I felt as though I could trust her. I decided to accept her invitation. But first, I wanted to know why. "Why are you being so kind?" I asked, thinking back to the elderly man in the white van and all the others who were looking to take advantage of me. "Because," she told me, "you have familiar eyes. I recognize backer eyes from anywhere. It's rare I see them in a young woman with those eyes." That statement triggered me. I've seen plenty of women with backpacker eyes, I thought to myself. More so than men. I knew I was lying to myself. Not because I saw backpacker eyes in one type of person over another. The reality was that I had never seen backpacker eyes in anyone. In fact, I was not even entirely sure why so many people saw them in me. "Backpacker-eyed people are full of adventure," exclaimed the woman giddily. "I love adventurous stories. They remind me of the fairies in my shop. People with wings have backpacker eyes. They travel the world. I like traveling too. I just do it in my mind." "I'll close up shop now," exclaimed the woman. "What? But it's midday. Is this the time you normally close?" "Look around you, backpacker," said the woman. "Do you see any people around here aside from you?" "Only you," I responded, scanning my surroundings once more. "I see a woman reading the paper in the back corner there." "Oh, that woman pays me in compliments and company. She never buys a thing. No point in keeping the shop open for her. You were supposed to be my food stamp today." The backpacker, "But you aren't paying." "You would serve me best at home." "Oh, okay then," I responded. This sure did seem like a woman of whim. "Grab your bike, backpacker. You're coming to my house," said the woman, sweeping up the fairy confetti in front of the counter. "All right, Putter. You've loitered enough for the day. I'm closing early and opening late tomorrow morning. You'll have to stop in at the end of your morning walk instead of the beginning." "Oh, all right," said the old woman bitterly. She gazed upon me. "Housing another nomad caprice? You know they always steal from you. Why do you insist on feeding them?" I shuddered at the woman's words. She made me out to be some sort of animal. Besides, I was not a burglar by any means. I had savings and I could manage myself. And even if I couldn't, I would sooner become a beggar than a burglar. Not all of them do, replied Caprice. The ones who do need whatever they took more than I do. I steal their stories and put them into fiction books. Let them steal a book here or a few dollars there. To me, it is worth the risk. Besides, this backpacker is worth working for her keep. I have a task for her. Putter's glare sent a chill through me. I broke from her gaze and turned to look at the paper she held in her hand. I recognized the cover. It was last week's issue in my home city. I suppose I really didn't travel all that far after all. All right, said Caprice hastily. Enough with the complaints. I'll hear them tomorrow. You, backpacker, come with me. That's not my name, I said. My name is V. See, said Caprice to Putter. She is not like the other backpackers. This one told me her name. This one won't be like the others. I don't trust people with one-letter names, said Putter. Must stand for something. She just doesn't want to share it. That's a backpacker for you. Let me reassure you, dear reader, that V is in good hands. If she were not, I would be making an appearance in the narrative. Caprice is a tender woman. V discovers this in her very quickly. V always discovers that Caprice. V also discovers that Caprice is very poor. The fairy shop does not sustain itself. In fact, the bank attempted to bankrupt the shop several times. They wanted to put a commercialized building in its place, something profitable. Luckily, the town residents found the quaint little shop charming, and its owner even more so. The town's councilors defended the shop to its mother. Countless threats ensued. The town residents in the area promised to move to another city if the shop was closed. They assisted in raising funds to pay back the shop's debt. The city residents loved Caprice dearly for her golden heart, and it was because of her golden heart that she was so adamantly protected. Though her kind heart did bring her protection, it was equally to blame for her suffrage. Caprice lived alone. She was once married, but her husband was not a man from the town. He was a businessman, and Caprice fell in love with his stories. To be fair, she fell in love with any story that belonged to a person with backpacker eyes. This situation differed from the rest because this backpacker reciprocated that lustful eye. He tried to abandon the life of a traveler and marry the woman of whim, and indeed, they were married for a year before. When the spring air kissed the cobbled streets of the city, Caprice announced her pregnancy. Once her husband discovered her pregnancy, he grew frightened. One day, he disappeared into the night. He had been gone for months, and Caprice cried many silent tears. She, and being a woman of whim, kept a candle lit in the porch every night in hopes he would return. Some nights, the wind blew out the candle. Others, the rain washes it out. She wants nothing more than to bring him back home. Caprice frequently envisioned him walking through the door, candle in hand. She would not scold him because she would be too eager to kiss him. She would bring him back into her bed and hold him close, though for now she could not dream. She could only dream, because each night the candle remained untouched. Caprice led me to her charming home. It was perched on the top of a grassy hill. She reached into an urn where her begonias grew. It was clear she mothered them well. They bloomed prosperously. Behind the flowers was an old-fashioned key. It was heavy and brass. I keep my spare here, she told me, wide-eyed. Backpacker, I'm going to show you a picture of a man. He has green eyes and dark hair. He is the most beautiful man you will ever see in your whole life. He is this tall. She gestured to the door frame above us. He always had to crouch to get inside, she said, laughing to herself. Backpacker, if you see him on your journeys, tell him that the key is behind the flowers in the left arm. Tell him to put out the candle on the porch. I was not sure what she meant, but she would not let me inside until I agreed to uphold her request. When I gave her my word, she opened the door with the brass key. She exaggerated her movements in placing it behind the begonias. She wanted to ensure I would remember where she kept the key. She led me into her tiny abode. It was a charming, quaint, and as I had expected, it was littered with tiny fairy statues. It was clear that Caprice fell in love with the fairies in her home shop, and she would hoard her favorite here in her home. I never did see a place quite like this. The pillows and blankets in the fairy living room were different shades of soft pink. I could see a playpen in the living space lined with stuffed animals. I also noticed a half-crocheted baby blanket on the couch in front of the tiny fireplace she had in place, where a television might go in most other homes. "Sit, backpacker. Do you want some tea?" Caprice offered. She took my jacket and told me to leave my shoes at the door. I sat beside the yarn basket and kept to the left of the couch. "You have a lovely place," I told Caprice, when she came back in with 2 mugs. "Yes, it is lovely. I took a year to fix it to my liking." Caprice looked around the place. "Backpacker, I have a question for you. Travelers have so many stories to share and so much wisdom to offer. I have a question, and I've been asking every traveler that has ever come by, but their answers are the same. May I ask it to you?" "I never ask permission to ask a question," I replied, almost by instinct. "Ask the question first, and if I know the answer, I will give it to you." "All right," said Caprice. She leaned in and lowered her voice. She had no reason to, because we were the only 2 in the room. It seemed like she liked sharing secrets, which I felt contributed to her childish demeanor, that made her so endearing. "I'll tell you a true story. One day I saw a man carrying a heavy briefcase, and it looked as though he needed a hand. I dropped my purse on the sidewalk, and I helped him carry the bag to his doorstep. He thanked me and went inside. When I looked back to where I had dropped my purse, which was only a few feet away, I discovered it had been stolen. I ran back to the man's door and knocked on it in hopes he would find it, but he did not answer. Help me find it, but he did not answer. Then, another day, I found a mouse on the street. It had a broken leg. I wanted to nurse it to health, so I took it home. I wrapped its tiny foot in a sling and gave it a home in a crate. I fed it and housed it, and yet one day it bit me. Then I got infected from the bite. And still another time, I invited a traveler into my house, and he stayed for a year. Then he left with my heart and valuables without as much as a goodbye. Now, when I tell other travelers of this, they tell me the same thing. Each time, bad things happen to good people. Then they change the subject and ask about the fairy shop. So, V, this was the very first time she called me by my name. Can you solve this riddle for me? Well, I can try. But I'll have to warn you, Caprice, I have not been traveling for long. I'm not like the backpackers you would have met before me. I don't have as many stories, and I'm not good with riddles. Her eyes looked sad and started to water. But I can try, I said quickly. I can try to think of an answer. I sat for a moment and considered her disposition. Her eyes looked back at me in wonder. She indeed was a woman of wonder. Okay, here's my philosophy, I offered. Someone once told me that in life, we have many lessons that we are meant to learn. But each person has one lesson that it takes them a lifetime to learn. It defines us for our whole lives, until one day, we define it. So, Caprice, you seem to be a trusting person, a good, trusting person. And while that is a great quality, an excellent quality, it might be to your detriment. Maybe the universe is trying to give you a message. You are good to people, but not to yourself. You're willing to jeopardize your own well-being for others. It is a cruel lesson, but I think maybe your purpose is to learn how to love yourself the same way you love strangers. If I wanted that advice, I would call my mother, retorted Caprice. All right, backpacker eyes, go on. I know you've been thinking about it. Ask about the fairy shop. I had been thinking about it. Why fairies? I asked her. I could tell it wasn't the first or the last time she would be asked that question. Because fairies are magical. They grant people's wishes. And that's what I started to do. Ever since I was little, all I wanted to be was a well. A well? I asked. I tried to hold back a chuckle. Yes, a well. A wishing well, to be exact. Wishing wells hold people's wishes. Wishing wells force you to put value into your wishes. As an example, what have you sacrificed to achieve your dreams? Couldn't think of anything, and I told her so. Right, most can't. But a well, on the other hand, a well will force you to put value into your wish. You lose a few dollars on your dream. You make your first sacrifice for your ambition. I never thought of wishing wells like that. So, you want to help people discover their dreams? Everyone already knows their dreams, Bee. I want to help people achieve them. If I was rich, that's what I would do. I would even sell my fairy shop for that dream. Though, this would be as a service to Putter and the others that take refuge in my fairy shop. Someday, I'll help them achieve their dreams too. What is your dream, Bee? My dream? I asked. Yes, what is your dream, Bee? And what have you sacrificed to achieve it? Well, I had to think about it. I like music, like a lot. I sing and I write too. So I guess I want to do that. Music, Caprice explained. What kind of music, Bee? What do you write your songs about? Usually love or success, I said. Do you also write poetry? Caprice asked. All singers write poetry. The songs kind of are my poetry, I admitted. Sing to me, Bee. I told the woman I couldn't. I just wrote songs for myself. Okay, Bee, said the woman, abruptly changing the subject. Pick something from my house you like and take it with you. I was in shock to hear this. What? I questioned. I looked into her eager eyes. Take something you like on your journey. Bring anything you like. Just one thing, though. I have a lot of travelers who come and go through here. Why would you offer me one of your things? I questioned. You barely know me. Pay one forward and eventually you will be reciprocated, she explained. All I ask is that you do a good deed for another. But Caprice, you already did a good deed for me. You offered me a place to stay tonight, and some food. Many wouldn't house a relative, let alone a stranger. Yes, but musicians need to trust their audience. So, I will let you pick something, and let you take it with you, and then you can sing me a song before you leave. I couldn't, I replied, but Caprice had already disappeared into the next room. She left me in the silent room. I looked around the tiny space. Expecting Mother deserved a larger home, I thought, but I wondered where the baby's father was. Caprice broke the silence in entering the room. She started to strum an instrument clearly out of tune. You get to keep this ukulele, as long as you play me a song before you leave. Caprice, I exclaimed, are you positive? Only if you promise to play me a song before you leave. Promise me, Bee. I love music. I promise, I said, accepting the ukulele. I hadn't determined how I would fit it onto my bike, but that was a problem I would resolve later. Okay, backpacker, now it is time for you to earn your keep. Caprice led me into her garden. A tall tree towered over us. It was placed in the middle of the garden. I looked to the top to see the frame of a tiny house planted on the treetop. Wooden plants jutted out of the tree trunks. They trailed up to the top, almost like the treehouse ladder one might see in a movie. How did Caprice build this frame in her late stages of pregnancy? She was a remarkable woman. I am building a sky fort, Caprice explained. She gestured to her protruding belly. She was grinning now. So when she is big, she may play in it. Would you like to see the inside? I'm scared of heights, I said reluctantly, though I was confident the structure was sound. Not that I knew much about framing sky forts, but I figured a woman who took the time to water and care for the Bengalias on her porch would guarantee stability of a structure for her child. My daughter won't be scared of heights, Caprice said in awe of her own creation, both the one in front of her and the one inside of her. My daughter won't be scared of heights. I'll teach her that heights should fear her. She'll climb to the stars, said the woman in a daze. How do you know it will be a girl? I asked. Did you ask to reveal the baby's gender? I didn't need to, she explained. I can feel it. I can feel the way she dances in me. It will be a girl, and she will be a ballerina. I'm going to buy her a tiny ballet slippers and decorate her room with little fairies. She explained her wake dreams to me. She will climb the branches one by one. She will decorate the sky fort with books and pillows to keep her comfortable. She wanted her baby to read up there and paint in the sky someday. She will paint views of the people below. She will draw a map out of the town she lives in. We don't take photos here, Caprice explained. As Mennonites, we capture life's beauty through other means. I did not fully understand what she meant by this at first, but eventually I did understand. She wanted her daughters to experience life in the present, not to live in the past. You and I are more alike than you may think, Bee, said Caprice, gazing at the sky fort. We both live against social norms, just in different ways. My lifestyle makes you uncomfortable, and yours makes me uncomfortable also. Yet we are drawn to one another because of it, because one thing ties us together. We both live with the intent of following our own path, even if it goes against the rest of the world. We find our people, eventually, who live our lives our way. She was right. Something about the stability of this town unsettled me. I'm not as complacent as you may think, V, Priest carried on, almost as if she was reading my thoughts. I fight my own battles every day. I'm a warrior who fights for peace. She said this proudly, and I knew she meant it. I thought it to be commendable, and I told her so. Do you have any names picked out for her? I asked, changing the subject. I have to see her first, admitted Caprice, but I have two that I am choosing between. She will either be a Straffel or Stella. A man called Philip suggested those names to me. Which do you like better? To be the admirer or to be admired? I asked. Both come with their flaws. Would you rather your daughter be loved or be loved? I want my daughter to be loved, answered Caprice. Unrequited love is more a curse than a blessing. She will be Stella then. Something about her eyes told me she picked this name long before I met her. Something also told me that she knew the pain of unrequited love intimately. She wanted her daughter to experience the opposite. Love ruled Caprice's life. It did not rule over mine, though at times I thought it did. I knew devotee was not my name. Caprice admitted herself to be a hopeless romantic to life and art and beautiful things. I think that was the reason she kept her fairy shop. The only condition to live as a guest in Caprice's abode was that I needed to promise to help her finish the sky fort for her daughter. She said as long as I worked, I could stay. I feared heights, but I feared to let Caprice down even more so. I built her baby sky fort in 3 days. I did not want to stay situated in a spot for any longer than that. I needed to move on. I was itching to move on, though. By the end of the 3rd day, I asked Caprice to offer me a pen, notepad, an envelope, and a stamp. I wanted to write a letter to my mother. She agreed to mail it once I left. On that night, I picked up my bike and my ukulele. I was ready to pick up from where I had last left off on my adventure. I was the nostalgic type, and I also desperately hated goodbyes. I wasn't certain if I could confront a morning with Caprice. She never did show me a picture of her husband, but I made a promise to myself and to her that if I ever did find the traveler who carried Caprice's heavy heart, I would demand he return it to her. Perspective of the narrator. 8th Angel. Do not worry, dear reader. Both our protagonist and her kind hostess will prosper. They will just do so in solitude for the present time. Strong women always thrive, even despite the turbulence that comes when one rides the wind. When Caprice awoke on the 4th morning since meeting V, she was not surprised to discover V was still in her bed. She knew that the backpacker-eyed travelers would not stay longer than a week. Only one backpacker stayed for any longer than a few days, and she married him. Caprice was disappointed that V did not keep her word in performing her a song despite taking the ukulele. Not everyone can be perfect. Caprice worried this broken promise was a sign that V would not keep her word in telling her husband to return home. However, when she went downstairs, she discovered that this backpacker was different than the others. All she took was the ukulele, nothing more. Perhaps it is because she rides a bicycle, thought the woman, though a part of her knew that it had less to do with the limited space and more to do with her character. Most backpackers, despite packing light, would find enough space to take a valuable thing or two from the trusting woman. She expected this and considered it payment for their stories. V, however, only took what she was given. Even still, she left after her work was complete, not before. She considered this a compliment, as most backpackers would encourage when she encountered what found her cozy home unsettling. They would never stay any longer than a night or two. V left a letter in a tiny cylinder on the kitchen table for Caprice. She noticed the letter first, and then examined the small cylinder. The letter was addressed to Caprice. Its content is not valuable to the plot. All it said was that she hated goodbyes, something Caprice had already figured. But V still felt she owed Caprice something of sentiment for the gratitude she was offered at the house on the hilltop. V then told Caprice that she left her a USB stick of a song she wrote and performed in her bedroom one night before she traveled off into the night. V said she hoped that Caprice would enjoy it just as much as she enjoyed making it. Caprice shook her head, dissatisfied. Damn these backpacker eyes, she said to herself, aloud to herself. That tricky traveler knows I cannot play the USB. What would I play it on? I can never trust these backpackers. Caprice knew better than to stay bitter. She knew that V was a bright girl, and bright girls often think up clever tricks. But they also finish what they promise, which was what made them so clever. My only regret, said the letter addressed to Caprice, was that I was unable to see a reaction to the sky fort. It is complete and secure. And now, all you've got to do is decorate the interior. I hope Stella enjoys the painting the stars. Caprice ran to the back door and stepped out into the backyard. Sure enough, there in the towering tree was a sky fort, pink in color, that touched the tip of the sky. Oh, it is beautiful, the capricious woman of whim exclaimed. My baby's sky fort. Okay, that's the end of chapter 4. Next week, we'll be doing chapter 5, which is called Stardust. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out Dream Catalyst on Amazon. And please leave a review if you're liking the book so far. Thanks for listening in. If you want to get notifications right away when I post, subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon. If you want more updates on my future publications, you can follow my Instagram, which I'll also link below. It's just at, I think it's Samantha Mirandola or at Sam Mirandola. Just check below in the description. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me so far. Next week is chapter 5, so hope you're having fun. I am too, and I'll see you next week.